$1.5 trillion.
Yeah.
That is the number that is currently making the rounds in the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee.
It's just a staggering amount of capital.
I mean, think about that. You could overhaul the entire national grid, or what? Rebuild the interstate highway system twice over with that kind of money?
At least. But right now, that money, it's doing absolutely nothing.
It's just sitting on the sidelines, frozen.
And just to be clear for everyone, this isn't money that's waiting for, better interest rates or for some new technology to come along.
No, this is capital that's ready to go today.
The only thing holding it back is a federal permit.
So today we're doing a deep dive into the testimony from that Senate hearing, which was, just last week? Late January 2026.
That's right. The official title was Federal Environmental Review and Permitting Processes, which sounds
like a guaranteed snooze fest.
Exactly. But then you look at who actually showed up to testify, and you realize something different was going on. This wasn't business as usual.
It really felt like an intervention.
It did. The lineup was just, you would never see these people on the same side of an issue. You had Brendan Bechtel, the CEO of the engineering giant Bechtel.
Okay.
Then Dustin Meyer from the American Petroleum Institute, so big oil.
Right.
Then the solar industry with Abigail Ross-Hopper from SCIA. And to top it off, Brent Booker from LIUNE, the huge construction laborers union.
It's like the Avengers of infrastructure, but they're usually in a civil war with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see the oil lobby and the solar lobby sitting there, nodding along to the same points, it's a huge red flag that the system is broken on a really fundamental level.
That was the core thesis.
Yeah.
Every single one of them agreed. It doesn't matter if you're trying to build a pipeline, a solar farm, or a bridge. The federal permission structure has just collapsed under its own weight.
The conversation wasn't even about if we should build these things. It was about the fact that we basically can't, at least not in a time frame that makes any economic sense.
Let's start with that economic damage, because Brendan Bechtel, he came with some numbers that are, frankly embarrassing for the U.S.
He wasn't just complaining. He was showing how we're losing big time.
Yeah. His testimony was so interesting because his company operates all over the world.
So he has a control group. He can actually compare us to other countries.
Exactly. He pointed to the Western Sydney Airport project in Australia.
A massive greenfield project, right, building from absolute scratch.
Totally from scratch. A major international airport on undeveloped land. In Australia, the time from just designating the site to getting full environmental approval was less than 3 years.
Less than 3 years. Okay, so how does that compare to the U.S.?
Well, Bechtel said that here, the average federal permit takes 4 to 5 years.
The average.
The average. And for complex projects, big infrastructure, it's often closer to 7 or even 10 years.
Wow.
He also mentioned the Kiask hydroelectric project up in Canada. Huge scale, huge environmental questions. They got their license in 2.5 years.
So the point he's making isn't just that waiting is inconvenient.
No, it's that capital is mobile. It has a passport, and it will go where it's welcome.
And that gets to his investability argument.
Yeah.
If you're a global fund looking to build, say, an AI data center, and you know Australia gives you a green light in 2 years while the U.S. keeps you tied up in court for 6.
You're not building in America. It's that simple.
And we are seeing the fallout from this.
We are. Bechtel estimates we're losing somewhere between $100 and $140 billion a year in unrealized returns. These are projects that just die on the vine.
And the ripple effects of that?
McKinsey estimates the total hit to GDP could be as high as $2.4 trillion.
That's the big picture. But I want to drill down into the why. Why does it take 5 years? Is it just government slowness? This, I think, brings us to the testimony from the American Petroleum Institute.
Right, and this is where we have to talk about NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act, or, more to the point, how NEPA is being weaponized.
Dustin Meyer from API made the argument that the delays, they aren't really about the environmental science itself.
No, he said they're about litigation proofing.
Litigation proofing, that's a great term. The idea is that these agencies, like the EPA, they know they're going to get sued by someone no matter what they decide.
So instead of a concise permit, they write a 5,000-page defensive document. It's a preemptive crouch.
They're trying to answer every possible legal challenge a judge might throw at them.
But the irony, as Meyer pointed out, is that it's not working. Between 2013 and 2022, even with these bloated environmental reviews, NEPA lawsuits went up by 56%.
So more paperwork, more lawsuits, and a huge part of this mess is what they call scope creep.
Yes, this is so important. NEPA was originally designed to ask a simple question, like, if we build this bridge, will it harm the local river?
But over the years, the courts have expanded that scope. Now it includes upstream and downstream effects.
It's the butterfly effect problem. If you want to build a railroad, you suddenly have to analyze the emissions from the oil that might be on the train and from the cars that might burn that fuel in a different state 5 years from now.
It's an infinite loop of hypotheticals.
Precisely. And Meyer brought up a really important Supreme Court case from May of 2025, Seven-County Infrastructure Coalition v. Eagle County.
Right, where the court tried to put a stop to this.
They did. They ruled that agencies only need to analyze the environmental effects they can actually control.
Which just seems like common sense. If you can't regulate the car, you shouldn't hold up the railroad permit because of the car.
Exactly. But API's fear is that unless Congress writes that ruling into law, the lower courts will just find ways around it. They want that Eagle County standard codified.
And there was another legal tool being used as a weapon, Section 401 of the Clean Water Act.
This one sounds so innocent. States just have to certify that a project won't hurt their water quality.
But it's being used as a pocket veto?
It is. Meyer testified that states are using this to block projects for reasons that have nothing to do with water. A state can just deny a water permit to stop a natural gas pipeline that's just passing through on its way to New England, purely for political reasons.
So the water is fine, but they kill the project anyway. It's a proxy war.
And you end up with a balkanization of our energy grid. You can't have a national system if every state can act like its own little fiefdom with a veto.
Okay, so API is pushing for judicial reform. And the specific thing they want, changing from vacatur to remand, sounds like legalese, but the impact is enormous.
Oh, it's the difference between hitting pause and hitting delete.
Explain that.
Right now, if a judge finds one flaw in a huge environmental review, maybe they forgot one species of beetle, the common remedy is vacatur. The whole permit is voided. The project stops dead.
Which, for a developer, is catastrophic. You've got loans, crews, equipment.
And suddenly, your legal permission to build is just gone. API wants the standard to be remand. That's when the judge says, hey, agency, you messed up the beetle part, go back and fix it, but the permit stands and the project can continue while you do.
Fix it, don't kill it.
That's the idea.
Okay, so let's move on from the oil lobby, because you might think the solar industry would be having a great time under this administration. But Abigail Ross Hopper from SEI, the Solar Association, she sounded just as frustrated.
She really did. And her testimony proves this isn't a partisan thing against fossil fuels. It's a bureaucratic problem, period.
She talked about a specific memo from the Department of the Interior from July 2025.
A memo that she says created 68 new layers of review just for solar projects on public lands.
68 layers. She literally described solar applications disappearing into a black hole at the DOI.
The bottleneck is that bad. She said there are 73 gigawatts of solar and 43 gigawatts of battery storage at risk right now. Her whole point was that the administration's green rhetoric is completely disconnected from the reality in its own permitting offices.
You can offer all the tax credits in the world, but if the permit never gets signed, you can't build anything.
Exactly.
And this isn't just about profits for solar companies. SCAA brought this amazing case study from Texas, from the ERCOT grid, that shows how this time tax on permitting directly hits your utility bill.
This is the most compelling part for me. They compared a hot July day in 2022 to a hot July day in 2025.
Both summers, huge demand for power.
Right. In 2022, solar and storage were still pretty new. When demand peaked, the price on the spot market shot up to almost $1,500 per megawatt hour.
That's scarcity pricing.
But then you fast forward to July 2025. Demand was even higher. But by then, Texas had managed to permit and build a ton of new solar and batteries.
So that new supply cushioned the blow.
Completely. Prices stayed stable at around $50 per megawatt hour.
So from $1,500 down to $50.
That's the real-world cost of delay. If those solar projects had been stuck in review for another 2 years, Texas ratepayers would have been paying that $1,500 price tag all over again.
The argument is building ththings is actually a form of consumer protection.
Absolutely.
Let's shift to the human side of this. We've heard from the CEOs, but Brent Booker from IUNA's, the Laborers Union, he represents the people actually doing the work.
His testimony really changed the tone of the hearing. He took it from spreadsheets and ROI to pension credits.
He had that one line that was just so powerful.
For a worker, a delay isn't a spreadsheet error. It's another day without a pension credit.
Yeah.
Construction work is transient. You build the thing, it's done, you move to the next job. If that next job is held up by a lawsuit, you don't get paid. It's that simple.
But Booker also talked about something beyond just the slow process. He called out project deniers and this new political volatility.
Right. This wasn't just about lawsuits. This was about the government itself canceling permits that were already issued and finalized.
That's the permit durability problem.
Yeah.
Booker testified that the current administration has been using executive authority to just revoke permits for privately financed projects that were already approved.
He even told a story about workers being sent home without pay just a few days before Christmas because a political decision in Washington suddenly killed their project.
That is a massive red flag for any investor. It's one thing to deal with a slow system. It's a whole other ballgame if the government can just tear up your contract after you've already started building.
It completely undermines the rule of law for investment. If a permit isn't a durable, binding document, then why would anyone commit billions of dollars to a long-term project?
So the diagnosis is clear. The system is paralyzed. What's the proposed cure? The committee chair, Senator Capito, kept talking about project-neutral reform.
Project neutrality is the goal. It just means the process shouldn't care what you're building. A wind farm, a gas pipeline, a factory, they should all follow the same rules on the same timeline.
The government shouldn't be picking winners and losers by slowing one down and speeding another up.
Exactly.
But when they got to the actual legislation, the SPEED Act, that alliance of witnesses started to fracture a bit.
It did. That was a really crucial moment. API and the union, they were mostly on board with it. But SEI, the solar group, could not support it.
And that's interesting. You'd think they would want faster timelines.
You would. But Abigail Ross Hopper argued that the act didn't fix what she called the bad faith problem.
Meaning?
Her fear was that if you just force an agency to make a decision in 1 year instead of 3, a hostile agency will just say no faster.
So for solar, it's not just about the speed, it's about the fairness of the regulators themselves. They need a guarantee that their applications will be treated fairly, not just processed quickly.
That's it. But they did agree on some specific fixes, like standing reform.
This is about who can sue, right?
Yeah. The idea is you should only be allowed to file a lawsuit if you actually participated in the public comment period for the project. You can't just hide for 3 years and then swoop in with a lawsuit the last minute to kill it.
It prevents those ambush tactics.
Yeah.
What about nationwide permits?
They want to extend those from 5 years to 10 years. It's about long-term planning. You can't build a major transmission line on a permit that's going to expire before you're even halfway done.
And speaking of transmission, that was the one thing that everyone seemed to agree on.
It was. From the union guy to the solar exec to the oil lobby, it's the ultimate bottleneck.
You can permit all the power plants you want.
But if you can't move the electrons, the energy is stranded. And transmission is the hardest of all to permit because it crosses so many jurisdictions. This is where a stronger federal role might be the only answer.
So we find ourselves here, early 2026. We have AI driving this massive new demand for energy. We're trying to have a manufacturing comeback. We've got $1.5 trillion ready to invest.
And we're stuck in what API calls procedural paralysis.
It's a completely self-inflicted wound.
The testimony makes that so clear. The U.S. doesn't have an innovation problem or a capital problem. We have a governance failure. The paperwork has become more important and takes more time than pouring the actual concrete.
And for you, the listener, this really matters. It doesn't matter what you care about. If you want green energy built fast to fight climate change, or if you want supply chain security, the obstacle is the same.
It's a permitting system that seems to value process over progress every single time.
And until that's fixed, until we get to this project neutrality where a permit is a real contract and not just a political football, that $1.5 trillion is going to stay on the sidelines.
And we're going to keep watching countries like Australia and Canada just lap us in the race to build the future.
It's a very sobering reality check. The hearing might be over, but for those projects, the waiting game has just begun. That's our deep dive for today. We'll catch you on the next one.